She can do all the other things ever. I'm also a great interviewer. I'm definitely not a great stage host. I refuse to do that for Katowice, so do not pick me up for that one. But everything else, I'll get 2 Zombie Grub clones right on it. Let's get into the game. Bottom left, it is the blue Protoss Hellraiser.
I think you should do this intro too.
Second Zombie Grub clone coming up, top right. It is the Red Terran BattleB.
Love it. All right. So this is a pretty cool one. Like you said, BattleB did good against... What was the score in the qualifier for BattleB against Hellraiser?
3-0.
Jeez, that's rough.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
Yeah, what really intimidates me for Hellraiser's chances here is the fact that he hasn't been playing too much. Like his Aliulak, it's okay if he has been losing because he is the type of player that whose playstyle is going to be somewhat volatile. But the fact that he just doesn't have many matches up in recent history, and the fact that, you know, he is in Ukraine and he's been struggling with that and he's been tweeting about it, it doesn't make me feel too good about his shape coming into this game.
Yeah, that's kind of the underlying issue of a couple of our players. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a bummer to bring up, but it absolutely, 100% has to be affecting them, right?
Yeah.
Gosh, yeah. So I mean, it's a point to bring up, though. I mean, we do usually, if we know to make at least somewhat of a point, if we know that they're kind of in like a good mental state versus bad, we try not to get to specifics because that's just unnecessary. But yeah, it's part of the process. So yeah, Hellraiser is just not having. Well, a very good run so far, and because of their recent performance, very recent, right, 20 days ago, he might not be thinking too positively about this one, but it is still $200 on the line, so it's not like you go into the depth of despair here and then just kind of go, whatever, I don't care anymore. No, it's actually still a lot, and to be clear, Hellraiser still has a shot, all right? If he wins here, he can win against 2 other people. Again, versus Rainer, maybe that's, a little more questionable, but hey, Rainer's not having a great day, week either, I suppose. It's all things to consider, but BattleB's recent performance, his little rise here for the start of 2022, it seems very promising.
Yeah, for sure. And as far as, like perception, yeah, I think in the panel we are favoring BattleB as a whole. I did predict Hellraiser. I do think he has chances, but as far as like bookies are concerned, it's actually favored for Hellraiser, like 55-45. So perceptually, as far as people who are putting their money where their mouth is, there's more of it on Hellraiser's side, so definitely has a shot, and definitely at least perceptually the small favorite here. But I think realistically, BattleB is, it would be a little bit of an upset if Hellraiser takes this one, for me at least.
Exactly. I think you summed it up very well. Perception, very different than the possible reality. But I do think it's always important to note when there are veterans versus newcomers. And actually, right in the intro, we saw BattleB take 3 SCVs over to his gas geyser when he only needs 1 to build a refinery, right? So there is always a little bit of that nerves question. And for Hellraiser, it seems to be on point so far. Although doing a very interesting build, kind of the last tech structure on the likelihood for Protoss build orders, which is a Robo first. So usually it's Twilight probably, then right up there is also a Stargate, and then the Robo is kind of left out on its own a lot of the time. So we can see like a Colossus drop or even a Disruptor drop, which is really cool. Colossus is a little more common in this particular matchup. The Adept doesn't know what's coming his way. But the implications here, the result from an opener like this, that you're not going to have very strong multitasking defense. You're going to get your little bit of a jab there with the Colossus drop, but then when you return home, you're not going to have blink, you're not going to have that mobility, so it can be hard to do the follow-up of this.
Yeah, I'd like Disruptor, to be honest. It's going to be a Colossus, however, and that's pretty cool. Colossus is the more stable option of the two when it comes to defense. When it comes to offense, I usually prefer Disruptors just because there's not going to be stim that you're going to be facing, so you can kind of apply a little bit of pressure, threaten potential mineral lines, and so on. But Hellraiser is going to go with a Colossus, and that will double down on defense as well. It is consistent DPS and AoE early on, so let's see if there is good deflecting of this first drop here from BattleB.
So far, I love BattleB's response. I mean, it could have been his initial build order, but it could also be a response just as easily. Going into the Raven, basically. Would have Mine drop, that's bread and butter for Terran versus Protoss, and I save on both Would have Mines. But then the follow-up of the Raven is particularly good against someone who's going to Colossus drop you. And 9 times out of 10, you see a Robo first, it is going to be a Colossus drop. Sometimes people do just play a very safe, turtley style with a Colossus opener, but it just... there's almost no reason to not try and do a little bit of Colossus harassment. But of course, the biggest reason would be that it's high risk, high reward, right? You lose this and you pretty much lose the game.
Yeah, and the Raven is the kind of piece that can actually make you lose this, because if your Colossus gets caught off the Warp Prism, then the Warp Prism can be disabled. Gotta be really careful. I guess the energy is not quite there yet. 3 energy out for that Raven, but if the Warp Prism gets disabled while the Colossus is down, you all of a sudden have to use a recall, and with that many Marines, it's likely that the Colossus falls regardless.
Yeah, it's very scary. It's why I brought up the Raven as being an excellent choice. And even if it doesn't stop this harassment, if it doesn't get the big move of killing the Colossus, it's not like it's getting any worse over time. It's still eventually going to go across the map and interference matrix 1 or even 2 Colossus. Love that BattleB still trying to get this Widowmine drop going, but I also loved Hellraiser's response to getting a cannon. Wouldn't have minded a second cannon than natural, actually, but he kind of made it a little easier on himself, but not totally over defensive by putting a cannon in the main. Really helped out.
Yeah, and talk about Hellraiser's adaptation to this. He didn't even get Thermal Lance. He didn't get a second Colossus. He's just rushing for charge and adding additional gateways as well as +1. So that's pretty cool, because if you're BattleB, you have to be thinking, okay, like off of this, like you said, I have enough energy for 2 disables onto your 2 Colossus, right? And then if you neutralize 2 Colossus and you have invested also into the Thermal Lance, your timing is, so much stronger, because you're removing so much of the investment of your opponent into those core units. So if BattleB thinks, like we are thinking, that it should be a good idea to utilize his Raven offensively, he's gonna run potentially into trouble, because Hellraiser already dropped the Colossus, no pun intended.
Yeah, there you go. Blown pond, not quite. Yeah, it's actually really a smart game from both players. And I keep saying I love this, or I love this, or I love that, and I got to say again, I love the transition away from Colossus, not just sticking on it. It could work if you could get 3 Colossus with extended thermal lance, a couple of shield batteries, and the only interference matrix 2. Especially if you're correctly moving with your army as a Protoss player, kind of forcing a fake engagement, if you will. It is possible. But I think the more clever way to do things is to get out of the high quality but very few important unit play when you're up against a Raven. So the more charge lots you add in here, yes, anti-armor missile can still be useful. It's just so much more unlikely that it's going to be the game-deciding spell, which cannot be said of the Colossus and their interference matrix. They're just taken out of the equation. That's usually game-ending.
Yeah, we're going to see that kind of be useful here, but without a shield battery, a lot of those zealots being warped in are going to die right away. The Warp Prism speed's trying to do something, but there's a little bit of a chase there from the Viking, so it should be taken down if BattleB is paying attention. He's not at the moment, so the Warp Prism will actually survive at the back of his base. And here comes the main attack, and it's going to be, like you said, an anti-armor missile dead center of everything. Actually, it does not get better than that, as the Colossus stands on top of all of the army, and Hellraiser's going to engage regardless. I'm not sure if that's the play. He definitely has the numbers, but he is working with a disadvantage with that massive missile. It's not going to matter. It's going to be plenty enough. So really daring but great move from Hellraiser.
That was one of the best anti-armor missiles like I've ever seen. So I was questioning if it was going to be worth to do it, but Hellraiser's still confident in his basically tech swap. I mean, it's a lower tech, but a very important change up anyways. The charge lots running through here, grabbing a very important Widowmine. Every Widowmine's going to count right now to help deplete the Zealot numbers. The Warp Prism still being alive in the main base might actually be the true nail in the coffin here. If he only had to deal with one attack, and an attack that didn't have a Warp Prism at that, right? Then we're definitely talking about a future. But the Warp Prism having a second attack in the back, as Zealot still chomping away here on the SCVs, and the Warp Prism being able to meet up with the main army to continue the attack, that's what would kill BattleB 100%. Hellraiser's not going to overstay his welcome, though, just takes the victory where he can get it, and the game will continue because of that. It's probably the smarter move. It was just really scary there for BattleB. If he had taken any longer to clean up the Zealot harassment, his army would have been all over the place, getting sliced up when he wasn't paying attention. It would have been much worse.
Yeah, at the same time, it's not amazing still for Hellraiser. He has 29 Zealots, 1 Colossus, 3 Stalkers, and now 2 Archons as the whole of his army. So very, very Zealot heavy. This army does not scale too well. And I am very surprised that BattleB is actually going on offense here. The Widowmines are going to be amazing against the Zealots, but they can be accounted for, especially if they're clumped up in the front. So yeah, you want to reposition those, and you want to be careful. And I think this is a wise back away, because Hellraiser really wants to take engagements right now.
Yeah, I think that's a very good retreat there. Yeah, his army was a little intimidating, but that is assuming that the Widow Mines get nice shots, you're not pounced upon, and that your control on the army is also pretty decent. So it's just, there's almost no reason to. Yes, he did take a slap to the face, losing those SCVs, having to lift his 3rd CC, but you know that their army on that move out, you saw what the army looked like, right? It is rather basic. It's not that complicated. A couple EMPs will destroy an army like this, so better to wait for that. Unfortunately, the ghosts are not here yet, so it is going to be a ghostless defense. The Widow Mines are situated and get a couple of shots. An interference matrix just to help out, as well as an anti-armor missile, and the SCVs absolutely have to be pulled. If you can defend this, then maybe you can go for a counterattack, but the Zealots in the main, the Zealots in the natural, so many SCVs are going down. It truly is making this a potential all-in from BattleB afterwards.
Yeah, now it looks terrible for BattleB. This was great from Hellraiser, and I mean, BattleB, I think, could have had a little bit better of a defense. We see walls nowhere, right? Like, this supply depot's all in the back of his main. They should be out at the front if he had identified that it is this many Zealots that he's going up against. He should be making, you know, artificial wall-offs. He should be making some bunkers here and there to tuck his units in between those wall-offs and make sure that the Zealots don't thrive with the surface area that they get, especially in this very wide-open triangle third, right? They come at every angle, and with Hellraiser being smart enough also to bring him at other angles in the main and the natural, like you were pointing out, it just makes it near impossible to pull.
It would have been a near impossible call during the game, but I think hindsight 2020, you look back at it, it wouldn't have been bad for him to just abandon the third, as in lift and leave it, and then just defend in his natural. That way, he's like, he still has the main base problem, the Zealots up there, but he's still kind of maybe saving 25 more SCVs, and maybe this isn't such an all-in, but it still would have been desperate times. It's absolutely desperate here, and it's already not starting well for BattleB, and he acknowledges it. GG. Hellraiser takes game number 1. A pretty cool game from both of them. Their decisions to slightly change the way that they were going to play out that game obviously worked better for Hellraiser.
Yeah, the 5 Meister at the end, obviously dying right away, made it so that it was just impossible for BattleB to do anything. But yeah, I'm completely with you. The Raven was cool from BattleB, and the response to kind of just abandon the Colossus tech completely from Hellraiser, even though he even went for the Prism speed as well, right? So there was an intended commitment from Hellraiser that he very much abandoned because he saw that BattleB already had that Raven, and that would neutralize his Colossus tech with the first push. So really, really cool game. I mean, there's so much to talk about it in that one, but we got to get ready for the next one.
Yeah, next one's going to be on Hardwire. I brought up that BattleB was a little nervous, you know, in the very beginning of that game, and I think that is true. He was trying to get his feet under him, trying to just play out a very solid TVP, but, you know, accounting for all of the tech swaps and the mobility of that type of army, it can be very difficult for a Terran. You know, they expect the pacing to go one way, especially a lot of the time in TVP, it's a Terran kind of providing that pressure. And then suddenly you have to totally 180 and think, okay, I need to be on the defensive. I need to be looking at where this army's coming in from. I need to be checking how all in this is from the Protoss. Can just kind of get you out of your groove, especially when you already had trouble perhaps getting into it because there was red play.
Yeah, exactly. It puts a lot of the pressure on you, and that is kind of if it's an uncomfortable situation, it's tenfold when you are on broadcast and the camera's on you for the second time, I think, in your life, just about, right? Like, at least as far as like this many people watching you and being under scrutiny like this, it's gotta be nerve-wracking. And yeah, Hellraiser really exploiting that, perhaps, as we are loaded into the second game. And in the top right-hand side, it is Hellraiser.
In the bottom left is the red Terran for Alien Esports. It is BattleB. Alrighty then. SCV going for, let's follow the path. Does look to be getting an engineering bay block.
It does, yeah. So he's just trying to avoid the probe scout and drop an eBay block by the looks of it. Well, Hellraiser. Yeah, go on.
Sorry, I was going to say this could be a way to then offset Hellraiser. We're talking a lot about the expectations of the game, but I do know that Hellraiser had a probe on patrol last game, and it looks like he was doing the same exact thing here.
Very fast probe pull here to answer from Hellraiser, even some of those with minerals, so really not wasting any time, just grabbing the first 5 probes that he sees. And in doing that, he's going to promptly deal with this, which is actually pretty big because, you know, like the investment of the eBay is worse if you can't develop it further, as you don't have to pay for it again. The SCV just gives it more HP, which means more mining time the later you respawn. So great job from Hellraiser.
For the Terran side of things, like 30-ish minerals and the SCV, that's otherwise probably isn't doing an SCV scout, it is a little bit of a commitment. It does kind of fall into one of those, you know, like if you find the 2 racks early enough, then you can just abandon ship in the 2 rack situations where, because it is early enough, you can get the minerals back pretty fast. It doesn't really delay anything that I know of. So there's, you know, a little bit at play here, but I think for the Protoss, it's basically worse if they don't see that coming. You know, like as much as I said, like it's not that much of a commitment whether it gets up to 75% health or not. Like that, it does hurt the Terran a little bit. It doesn't really hurt them all that much. I think it does hurt the Protoss a lot more when they just don't see it coming. When it's at 99% health and they're like, oh, okay, I gotta take the 3rd base. They've gotten a little used to it, but clearly Hellraiser very uncomfortable in that situation, or just knows that BattleB likes to do it against him, because that is emphasis on not letting that block happen. That probe down to the natural patrolling this game and last, 100%, he just does not like getting engineering bay blocked.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I think you're completely right. It really depends on what the Terran follow-up and opening is going to be. But if you're following up with a CC, it's not like it actually delays it, right? Because you still need to build your money up to those 400. So canceling it as early as he did and just dropping the CC is going to work out perfectly fine for BattleB, and just mostly ends up losing those. Did you say 38 minerals? I don't know the number.
Well, yeah, unfortunately engineering bays aren't as nice. I think you get 94 minerals back and it costs 125, so 31.
Okay.
Math on stream, I don't know, man. It's a bit questionable. Yeah, not too much. And Hellraiser's changing things up once again. So going into Phoenix here, now BattleB obviously wants to see that it's Phoenix. All right, first check there, and he's not been able to see that yet, as he did not open up with a Reaper. But then also second check on whether it's Phoenix Colossus or Phoenix Charge. Considering that Hellraiser did have a very good time using just basically a bunch of charge slots last game, I would not be at all surprised if he did it again here. Just thinking that might be where BattleB gets uncomfortable in a matchup like this.
Yeah, there's going to be that Phoenix coming out, like you were saying. And that's going to be pretty important as well for scouting. I think that it can be sent right across the map right away, but it's not going to for Hellraiser. So he's going to rely instead on a little bit of a surprise tactic / accounting for medevacs. And there is a medevac on the way, and there is going to be Widow Mines on the way. And Hellraiser already setting a perimeter to try to see where the aggression might come from. So that is good for him.
BattleB could be having a tough day if this Widow Mine gets caught by a Phoenix. If it unloads, then I think it's okay-ish, but you're still sacrificing the medevac almost 100%, which I'm not sure BattleB really wanted to do. I mean, you know, it's not a super fast 3rd Nexus, so maybe crossing off like a Twilight Council opener, but
the Phoenix are in a good position. This should be enough for the Phoenix to react, and even if the medevac unloads, there's the burrow time for the Widow Mine, so the Phoenix should be able to lift those up. And yeah, he's gonna be just fine.
That is painful, you know. And on the side of Hellraiser, all he really has to check is that it's not a forward attack, so that adept is really important, getting that consistent scouting, because the Phoenix being held at home means that there's not much actually getting direct scouting into the Terran's main base, right? So imagine you go up against the 3 racks, you don't know about it, and you're like, oh no, I was trying to surprise you and you surprised me. Well, that would have sucked. It wasn't that. You know, he knew that it was at least something along the lines of a 1-1-1 with the adept scouting. So it was basically a no-brainer for Hellraiser just to stay back with the Phoenix and go, I gotcha. And he absolutely got BattleB. BattleB losing everything so far. Hellraiser losing, a Phoenix. That actually does hurt, because otherwise it was perfect, and we know how important those Phoenix are to keep in high numbers.
Yeah, they're pretty expensive units. So he's going to continue to make Phoenix, and obviously the surprise on either side has gone to the bin, but definitely favoring Hellraiser in this early game, and he already took a 3rd before even anything happened, so he's going to be situated in a very good economical position, whereas BattleB, no sight of a 3rd CC.
That's true. Yeah, I was thinking of, like, you know, we do see a couple of the Korean players, I think, bring back a couple of SCV pulls, but I don't think we see it too often in Europe, and I'm not really... It would work. Usually the idea of SCV pulls is that it works against, you know, a lot of gateway units, or even some with Colossus it can work, but No, I hope he just plays defensive, actually, as we have Hellraiser with all the aggression in mind. He did take a third gas, so not just literally all charge lots, not like nice or something like that, but it really is only going to more Phoenix production, so maybe a little bit like nice. And I feel like BattleB has got to get this, keep this on his mind, you know? He at the very least saw that it was Twilight Council follow-up with that medevac drop, so it wasn't totally wasted, but sometimes Terran players, they still push out when maybe they shouldn't, or they push out because they think that the Protoss are going to be waiting for them, and they're like, oh, I'll just poke and then leave. But if Hellraiser is setting up a back attack as well with his proxy gateway, then this is, I mean, maybe one of the worst things BattleB could be doing.
Yeah, 3 Marines here are going to get caught. Only 2 of them end up going down, however, to the Phoenix. He's going to be able to reposition defensively now Hellraiser and have some aggressive warpins as BattleB, like you said, wisely goes back. Or is it wise? Because now he doesn't have the CC either. And there's the SCV pool. I actually like this. And I like that you brought it up because this makes a little bit more sense. Your economy is not going to recover from this. And against charge loss, I think that this is decent because it's going to be a lot of buffer. Like if there was a lot of AoE on the ground or something like that, this would be a little bit dangerous. What my only concern is that this doesn't seem super planned to be an SCV pool because the mines are potential hindrances, but in the middle of the map, Hellraiser is going to pounce. And with that, we're going to have a huge fight. The anti-armor missile actually working in Hellraiser's favor to some degree, but it's not nearly enough. And BattleB will prevail in the middle. The counterattack hasn't done too much. Looking like BattleB might be able to turn this one, Jess.
Yeah, he might. I mean, I thought that was one of the worst possible scenarios for BattleB. All of his Widow Mines weren't burrowed. If they did, they would have splashed all of his own army. He anti-armor missiled himself, tearing the race of friendly fire. Like, that was supposed to be a lot worse. But good control from BattleB, good recognizing what he had to do when faced with such a crisis. And again, another example of good control. Not letting the Phoenix drag onto his army a little bit towards the end right there, and we are starting to run low on units, so maybe this still works out for Hellraiser. BattleB, have you done enough damage? Is there a follow-up here? He's going to pick up and get out because he did kill all of the Phoenix, and heck, he's still reinforcing a little bit. He's got that +1 armor finishing too, but Hellraiser now has 30 seconds to rebuild his Zealot army, rebuild some shield batteries. I think that might not have been it.
Yeah, I mean, the problem here is the economy. As far as army supply, BattleB is still in a position to potentially end the game. I would not mind a second SCV pool, to be completely honest, just because he really needs to end the game with this push. And if he's not, he's just going to lose. The mines are decent, but not enough army here to overtake those stalkers, especially not without any marauders in the field. So good decision from Hellraiser unit-wise.
Yeah, just too much from Hellraiser. I mean, I think at the end of the day, that still was not a very good SCV pool, right? Like, it's surprising that he was able to obliterate the Zealots with how poor